The forest was already whispering before they stepped inside. Something in the wind carried a name: Tomas. Lyra froze at the edge of the tree line, her bow half drawn. "You hear that?" she whispered. Dain, the dwarf beside her, spat into the mud. "Aye, and if it's Tomas's ghost, he's not the only one restless here." Behind them, the paladin Aric adjusted the grip on his sword, the steel gleaming in the green twilight. "Let's keep moving, we're burning daylight." But the light was already dying. Eulon Forest swallowed it whole. The four adventurers crossed beneath the canopy, where the air thickened like old breath. The sun vanished, replaced by shafts of pale green light filtering through leaves the color of bruises. Lyra, the ranger, led the way, her keen eyes scanning for tracks. Dain trudged behind her, chainmail clinking softly. The dwarf's beard was singed from a recent skirmish, and his temper wasn't much better. Aric and Mira followed in silence. It was Mira who broke the quiet. "They say Tomas tried to hold them off with an axe." Her voice was soft, almost lost to the rustle of branches. Lyra's jaw clenched. "And his wife, Lyra?" "Gone," Mira said. "The goblins took everything, left their corpse on the floor." Dain kicked at a rotting log, sending a swarm of beetles scattering. "Damn goblins, always hunting easy prey. Families, traders, never a fair fight." Aric spoke without looking back. "That's why we're here. Justice, not vengeance." Dain snorted. "You can dress it up in holy words, lad, but I'll settle for their heads on spikes." Lyra didn't answer. She was staring at the ground, a faint set of prints, small and light, crossing the trail. Not goblin, not human, something else. She raised a hand. "Stop." The group halted. Lyra crouched low, brushing away fallen leaves. "The prints go deeper in," she murmured. "Too big for foxes, too light for orcs." Mira knelt beside her, eyes glowing faintly with arcane light. "Could be forest drakes." Lyra shook her head. "No, 8 tracks, symmetrical." Dain's eyes narrowed. 8? Before anyone could speak, a sound split the silence. A wet, dragging scrape, followed by the faint chitter of mandibles. The group drew weapons instinctively. Lyra's bow sang as she nocked an arrow. Mira whispered a spell, her hands tracing glowing sigils in the air. Dain hefted his warhammer, and Aric raised his shield, the golden crest of the Sunfather catching the faint green light. The noise grew louder, a clicking rhythm echoing above them. They looked up and saw the web. It stretched across the canopy like a ghostly sail, strands as thick as rope glistening with dew and decay. Several dark shapes hung cocooned in silk, the remains of travelers, half dissolved and still swaying. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Gods! How big is it?" "Big enough," Dain muttered, stepping back. "We should burn it and move on." But it was already too late. A shape dropped from the darkness above, massive, black, and fast. The web shuddered as the spider landed with a sound like breaking branches. It was easily the size of a wagon, its chitin shining with oily light, 8 eyes burning a deep, unnatural blue. Aric shouted, "Form up!" and the battle began. The spider lunged first, a blur of fangs and legs. Aric raised his shield, bracing for the impact. The blow sent him crashing backward into a tree. Lyra loosed an arrow that struck the beast's eye. The spider shrieked, a high, piercing sound that rattled their teeth. Dain charged with a roar, hammer swinging. The blow cracked against one of its legs, shattering chitin and spraying ichor like tar. But the creature turned, lashing out. One leg slammed into Dain's side, tossing him across the clearing. He hit the ground hard and didn't get up. "Dain!" Mira shouted, her hands flaring with light. She unleashed a bolt of white fire that seared across the spider's abdomen, leaving a smoking line. The spider reared up, enraged, spitting a spray of webbing. The strands caught Mira's arm and yanked her off her feet. She screamed as it dragged her toward its fangs. Lyra sprinted forward, slicing at the silk with her hunting knife. "Hold still!" she hissed, cutting through the sticky threads. The spider turned its attention to her, mandibles clacking. Aric was already moving. "Over here, monster!" he bellowed, driving his sword into one of its forelegs. He twisted the blade, feeling the crunch of bone beneath. The spider shrieked and slammed its weight down. Aric rolled aside, but not fast enough. One leg raked across his shoulder, tearing through armor. He gasped, blood splattering across the leaves. Mira, free now, stood shakily, eyes blazing. She raised both hands and shouted a single word. "Incendia!" A jet of fire roared from her palms, striking the creature square in the face. The spider screeched and stumbled backward, flames licking across its body. Lyra drew her bow again, firing 3 arrows in quick succession. Each struck true, the eyes, the throat, the joint of the leg. The spider staggered, half blind, limbs flailing. "Now, Dain!" Aric shouted. From behind, the dwarf rose with a growl, ribs cracked but hammer still in hand. He charged through the smoke, leaping with all his strength, and brought the weapon down with a thunderous crack onto the creature's head. The skull split. The spider convulsed once, then went still. The forest fell silent. Only the sound of their breathing filled the clearing, ragged, exhausted, alive. Aric slumped against a fallen log, clutching his shoulder. Mira knelt beside him, chanting a soft, healing spell. Pale light flowed from her hands, knitting torn flesh, though his armor was ruined beyond repair. Dain sat nearby, holding his side. "Think that broke a rib or two," he grunted. Lyra smiled weakly. "Just 2. You're lucky." He spat, half laughing. "Aye. Remind me never to fight something with 8 legs again." The smell of burnt chitin and blood filled the air. When they were sure the creature was dead, Lyra began cutting through the webbing above, searching the bodies trapped there. Most were too far gone to recognize: melted faces, armor fused to bone. But among the remains they found weapons, pouches of gold, and trinkets still untouched by decay. Mira's hand brushed against a necklace, a small charm shaped like a crescent moon. "This belonged to a priestess of Alara," she murmured. "I met one once in Dunmar." Lyra set her jaw. "Then she deserves a burial, not this." They worked in silence, freeing what bodies they could, burning the web and the creature's remains. Smoke drifted up into the green canopy like black prayer. When the fire was low, Lyra knelt beside a small bundle of gear that had fallen free, a simple hunting knife, a torn cloak, and a leather satchel. Inside was a ring engraved with the initials T and E. Her breath caught. "Tomas and Elara," she whispered. Aric looked over, his face somber. "So the spider took them, not the goblins." Lyra's hands tightened around the ring. "No, the goblins got them. It seems the spider got the goblin, maybe." For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the crackle of the dying fire filled the clearing. By the time the sun fell, the adventurers had found a dry spot beside a moss-covered ruin. The forest seemed quieter now, though the faint chitter of distant creatures still echoed through the night. Dain built a fire while Mira tended to their wounds. Lyra cleaned her blades in silence, staring into the flames. Aric sat across, polishing his sword. Finally, Dain broke the silence. "So, goblins next." Aric nodded. "They've been sighted near the river. If we move at dawn, we can reach the old mill before midday." Mira looked up from her spellbook. "If they're smart, they'll have moved on after Tomas's farm. Goblins don't linger." "Some do," Lyra said quietly. "The Bloodfang tribe doesn't just raid for food. They collect trophies." Dain frowned. "You mean?" "I mean they'll have taken something from Tomas's home. Maybe Alara's ring, maybe worse. The dwarf grunted. Then we'll take it back. Mira closed her book, expression weary. You really think this is about justice? Aric met her gaze. It has to be. Lyra looked up, eyes hard as steel. Call it what you want, but tomorrow those goblins pay for what happened here. The fire crackled. An owl cried in the distance. The forest shivered. One by one they settled into uneasy rest, the night thick with the smell of smoke and rain. Lyra couldn't sleep. She lay awake beneath the half-dead trees, watching the embers pulse like hearts. Every time she closed her eyes she saw Tomas's house, the door broken open, the smell of smoke and blood. She had warned him months ago about the goblins near the river. He had laughed, said he could handle a few. Now all that was left was a ring and bodies. She sat up, staring into the fire. Across from her, Aric was awake too, polishing his shield in silence. The holy symbol, a rising sun, was smeared with soot. He noticed her watching. You blame yourself, he said. She didn't deny it. I should have come sooner. He nodded slowly. Maybe. Or maybe the forest was always going to take them. You've seen what Eulon does to the lost. She looked toward the shadows beyond the firelight. Then let's make sure the goblins are next to be lost. Aric's eyes glinted in the dark. Agreed. When morning came, it was grey and cold. Mist clung to the undergrowth, muffling sound and softening the light. The forest felt ancient again, indifferent to what had happened beneath its boughs. They broke camp quietly. Dain wrapped his ribs. Mira tended mana. Lyra checked the tracks. Fresh, she said. 5 or 6 goblins, maybe a day ahead. Aric tightened his gauntlet. Then we move now. As they set off through the mist, the forest seemed to close behind them, erasing all trace of the night before, the web, the ashes, even the smell of death. Only the whispers remained. And somewhere among those whispers, the name Tomas lingered, faint, mournful, and fading into silence. By the time they reached the river, the first hints of sunlight had pierced the canopy. Lyra led the group across a narrow stone bridge, her steps silent. Ahead lay the old mill, half collapsed, its wheel frozen by ivy and time. Smoke rose from within. Goblins. Dain gripped his hammer tighter. Looks like we found them. Mira's eyes glowed faintly. Let's finish what they started. Aric drew his sword, the blade catching the dawn light. Lyra knocked an arrow, her expression calm and cold. Behind them, the forest whispered again, like wind or the sigh of the dead. The 4 adventurers stepped forward together into the light of the coming battle. Please like and subscribe to ensure you don't miss the further adventures in the Eulon Forest.